Hey everybody, this is Garrett with Earth and Time, and today I'm in North Las Vegas and I'm visiting Nevada's oldest building, the old Mormon fort. We're going to go take a tour of the state park and learn a little bit about this old fort here and its historic significance to the Las Vegas area. Let's get to it. The Mormon fort that was set up here is an interesting story. They actually came here in 1855 and then it was abandoned in 1857 because it was such a harsh environment to live in. Now there's another Mormon fort up in Genoa, Nevada, up by the Reno, Carson City area, the northern area of the state, about 8 hours from here. So Mormons or LDS pioneers came and started expanding and settling a lot of these areas adjacent to Utah. Utah is probably about an hour and a half from here or so to the Utah border. So you can imagine it'd be an easy place to start exploring and expanding that state back in the 1850s. I'm going to go ahead and head into this large, nice visitor center behind me, and let's see what we can learn about this old fort. One thing we can learn about is hours. So it's open Tuesday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and closed Sunday and Monday. Now, I don't know if it costs to get in. Let's go find out what that cost is here. As we enter in, I did pay a $3 fee to come in. There's a nice chronological order of the settling of this area from pre-human beings being here, so even pre-indigenous people, where it was just a bunch of what they called the meadows here, to talking about the indigenous people that were here. So the Paiute people occupied much of this area, and then there are also paleo indigenous people as well, or what they call, archaeologists call paleo Indians, who lived in this area 12,000 years ago. So when the earliest humans were living in this area, they were probably seeing things like the camels and mammoths or mastodons that have been roaming through these valleys. And you can learn a little bit more about those up here when I went and visited the Las Vegas Natural History Museum and saw some of the animals that were actually living in Nevada about 10,000 years ago plus. I love dioramas because it really helps you think about how a people lived, or capturing a moment in time, because we don't always have cameras to do that. And so this is an idea of what a Paiute camp or a southern Paiute camp would have looked like. And along the stream here, and there were winter homes here, is what they have called a magagan or tagwan would be in here. And then they had summer homes they called takaganis, which were just more shelter from the sun that would allow wind to come through. So you can see the differences in how they would make them here in this picture, where you can see for summer just have shade, allow breeze come through, and then to stay warm, these other fully enclosed houses were made. It looks like this was a popular stop for a long time. In fact, I know the old Spanish Trail used to come through here in the 1800s. In fact, 1829 I believe is established, so the 1820s, 30s, 40s there would be pioneers, and the old Spanish Trail would have traders going from Santa Fe, New Mexico, going to California and coming across. And this would be one of the stops here where they could get water in this harsh desert environment. And this is showing a picture of that old Spanish Trail coming across. There's a Sevier River coming down through Utah, down here, and going all the way down into California. Eventually in 1855, there were Mormon missionaries that came down here and established this fort. Now, they only were, as I mentioned before, here from 1855 to 1857 because it was a very harsh place to live full time. And I believe they were a little ways away from the main water source. So they had to bring in that water or create a way to get that water here for their crops. But the desert soil here is not great for growing traditional types of crops. Eventually in 1865, Octavius Decatur Gass took the crumbling ruins and built a ranch out of them. And we'll go take a look. I believe it's going to be this building, which is the oldest still standing building from this time, and actually the oldest building in Nevada. And after the gas ranch, it became the Stewart Ranch. And it looks like they started learning how to tame, if you will, or better yet, not tame nature, but live amongst the nature a little better. And they were able to survive. And of course, eventually the town of Las Vegas would grow up around this general area and start eventually becoming the Las Vegas we know today, with the casinos and the tourism and the opulence. Oh, and they say there's an Ice Age Fossils State Park somewhere near here. I just got squirreled everybody because they said there's fossils nearby, and it sounds like they found Columbian mammoths, dire wolves, bison, and camels. It looks like Tule Springs. I think my next trip out here, when I do a video, is going to have to be from this Tule Springs area. That's really cool. Here's an artistic rendition of the old Mormon fort from 1857. And I apologize about the glare on the left-hand side. There's a window. I'm going to stop and look at this real quick. This is the Mormon fort flag. I've never seen a flag like that before. It has 18 stars on it and one in the middle. So 19 stars, and the one that's in the middle is not quite a star. Very, very interesting looking. I've never seen anything quite like it. Here's a little bit more about the travels from Santa Fe coming into this area. We're at Las Vegas down to Los Angeles, and it's nice again. They put the old Spanish Trail coming through, and then we're here, and you can see there are springs and maybe a little spring and river coming out here, but they were a little bit separated from maybe the main springs where individuals would actually camp at and maybe take care of their horses. And then of course you get a lot more springs as you get towards the mountains because they're popping along the fault zones there. Pretty cool display and interesting to see. I believe you can actually still go to Las Vegas Meadows or Springs and visit those, and maybe I'll put that on my list at some point. I've exited out of the main museum part and out into the grounds and thought I'd walk around and take a look. It looks like they have a little bubbling spring going on here with some koi in there. Hi, little koi. That's nice. I wonder if this is a spring. It's the actual spring that maybe they used here. Oh, it looks like there's some water dribbling down. Let's go take a look. The grounds here are really nice, and looks like you can have a picnic here and you can explore outside, especially on a beautiful day like today. So it's December here in Las Vegas. You can see in December they start getting their fall colors, unlike other parts of the country that are probably well past having any kind of fall colors. It does make it very picturesque and very beautiful. Really enjoying the ambiance of this place, especially the stream coming down. And what's really neat is here in front of me is actually the oldest continuously standing building in Nevada. Now you'll see it looks like they've had to do some patchwork on it. I'm not surprised. Probably have to patch this thing up all the time. It is, 170 years old or so after all. And it looks like they have a little museum inside. So let's see what we can learn about this old building here that was part of the original old Mormon fort. I'm about to enter the oldest building in the state of Nevada. Here we go. Whoa! We're inside. And that's pretty cool. And here are parts of the original fort where they made basically adobe. They used clay, sand, and water to make this, and says, please do not touch. Here's maybe what the inside of one of these buildings would have looked like. It's actually really nice inside of here. It's nice and cool. It's cool outside, but it's a comfortable cool in here. Really, really nice. You see they have a fireplace and some maybe period furniture, a little bassinet. I think that's what that's called. And here is the first flag flown over Las Vegas, July 4th, 1855. That's a pretty cool piece of history and such an interesting flag. Has 19 stars on it. They have more displays in here, a bit about the early Mormon settlers across a lot of the western U.S., including there's Fort Las Vegas where we're at here. There's places in Colorado, Fort Laramie in Wyoming, Fort Duchesne, Utah, Fort Provo, Utah as well. And just a little bit about the folks who actually came here and settled this area. And of course, about living in the desert. It takes a very hardy person to live out here, especially early on before you had a lot of modern amenities. And here's some pictures of where we're at. So showing snow. Here it is in 1934, 1980. You can see they were trying to protect it. Here's the building again in 1992 and 1974. So you can get an idea of the state this building was in through time and how they've protected it. And we're able to walk through it today. Oh, and here's some original brick and how they did that. So they would make these squares and pack in clay and grass and sand and mix with water, and they put these clay, they make these clay bricks and then let them dry, and so they were all pretty much the same size. They would fill one of these things in, and then they can get some common sizes to the bricks that they can start stacking and building and using this other mortar in the middle. And here's actually talking about the birth of a town, the birth of Las Vegas. So here's the adobe ranch house in the old Mormon fort, and you can see that they put some tents along the old Las Vegas Creek. They had a bathhouse there for a while. You can start seeing them setting up the town, and eventually put in a railroad depot between Salt Lake and Los Angeles. And of course, once you start getting the railroad coming in, you can start building a town. And so they actually call this Clark's Las Vegas Town Site. I didn't realize it was called that initially. Okay, going out into the yard. So we're in this original building behind me, and we can see the extent of how large this fort would have been. So this wall would have connected right into this building off to my left, and then they've recreated all this, and you can see how they would have built shade, maybe things for like horses and animals, and to get shade when they're working out here. They built the wall all the way across. There's the gate coming through. There's a tower to keep watch of for travelers coming in and out. Little portholes in here, and you can imagine this went back to this little wall back here. So I'm now standing in the middle of this, and it's not a huge fort, but you didn't need to have a huge fort or a huge place to live because you had to build all this by hand, and you just wanted to have somewhere where you could keep yourself safe inside and maybe keep animals and keep your animals safe as well in here, and then keeping everything else outside. Really interesting. I'm really excited I decided to stop here. I've probably driven past this a number of times and just never even really paid attention to it. But what a neat piece of history, and how important is this for somewhere like Las Vegas, where some of these early pioneers setting up this fort, although they weren't successful the first time around, people were able to later come here with some of the structures that were built and actually make it a much more livable place and eventually become the Las Vegas that we have today. It looks like we can actually go into the tower and take a look. So this has been the Watchtower. It looks like they recreated this up, and there is a second story up there, and they have a mirror. Oh, that's cool. So they have a mirror so you can see what it would look like looking outside of there. And here's a ladder coming up, but we're not allowed to go up the ladder. But this is really a neat recreation of what this would look like, including having something for heating here in the winters, something to do if you're just sitting for hours on watch. And they had these portholes that you can keep watch outside. Of course, probably somebody would be in the tower would be the most important part, so they can see for a long distance away. Well, I really enjoyed my time exploring the Las Vegas Old Mormon Fort. It's a really neat place to come take a look at. You can easily spend an hour or two here exploring around, learning a little bit. You're also right by the Las Vegas Natural History Museum. And again, I've linked that video towards the front of this one, but also put it in the description down below so you all can find that if you want to. But really interesting place to stand and to be at, and just something different to do. You know, when most people come to Las Vegas, I know we come here for the shows and the eating and the gambling and the pools, lots of fun things to do here. It is nice stepping away from all that and finding out a little bit more about the people that used to live here and how this place came to be. All right, with that being said, if you enjoyed this video, you all know what to do. I really enjoyed walking around here, learning about this place with you all. And thank you again for watching. Please take care, and we'll see you on the next adventure. Here's a bit more contemporary history, and that is there's actually a video game called Fallout New Vegas, and this old Mormon fort is one of the key places within that video game. And this is just showing the little Fallout figurine person going there, and then they have bottle caps because the currency of that video game are bottle caps. It's a really fun video game to play, and this old Mormon fort is prominent in that game. It's a lot of fun to see that connection between pop culture and history.